Hello and welcome to the first video in this GCSE Spanish video series of the topic walkthrough. Today we're looking at the topic of identity and relationships. So it's topic 1. It is the first topic in the AQA 2024 specification, so the newest specification. What these videos are designed to do is to help you with the walkthrough of the vocabulary, any phrases that you might need to know. That's what we're trying to sort of achieve by creating these videos and obviously posting them. So we're just going to get straight into it. We're going to break it down into different sort of subtopics, and we're going to start by having a look at ourselves to begin with. Okay, so we're going to be describing ourselves. Okay, this canvas will also be made available to you through our website, so you can click the link down below to download it as a revision resource to turn into flashcards, whatever you need. Okay, what we want to start off by discussing is hopefully, if you've gotten this far into looking at GCSE Spanish, that's an awful line. If you've gotten this far into looking at GCSE Spanish, you will understand some basic grammar rules. And the first grammar rule is that I'm going to be very traditional here, and use pink and red, blue and red. You will have been taught that in Spanish, words can end in two different ways. They can either be masculine or feminine, okay? And the word ending will depend on whether you are a male or a female, or you're wanting to use a masculine or feminine verb. Okay, we're going to start off by looking at adjectives to begin with. So we're looking at our personality adjectives. All right, so we're going to go in with a bunch of words that you can use, and I will point out the feminine and the masculine version of each as well. All right, so let's have a look at our core, what I'm going to call our core adjectives. Our core adjectives. Okay, so we start off with simpático. Simpático, simpática, not forgetting the accent on the A. Okay, and that means friendly. Okay, friendly. Divertido. You will also recognize that divertido can also mean funny. When we're using it in an adjective sense and describing ourselves, it means fun. So I'm he is a fun person. Amable. Amable, which is kind. It's quite a nice one to use. Remember, with words ending in E, okay, they're interchangeable. That was probably not the best word to use. But all it means is that it doesn't change. So no change whether it's you're trying to agree with masculine or feminine. Okay. And obviously, if you were using the plural, you'd add an S. Same rule applies with words ending in E. Okay, next one's a very good one to use, not just in this topic, but the topic of work. Trabajador. Trabajador. You'll notice the stem comes from the word trabajar, which is to work, and that means hard working. Hard. Nice quality to describe someone. Hardworking. Inteligente. Inteligente. That's a cognate. That is an I, not an E. Inteligente is intelligent. Intelligent. Okay. Creativo. So creativo is obviously creative, or creativa for feminine. Creative. Some of these are going to be cognates. And then now the last one that I want to consider is responsable. Responsible. Okay, so there's our what's the word? Our core adjectives. These are more focused on sort of positive positive traits or characteristics, of a person. I want to move on now to, I've got my notes on the side, that's why you can see the mouse moving. I want to move on now to what we call the negative adjectives. Okay, and the reason I call them negative is, well, they describe you as in a negative manner, but also they can be a little bit trickier to use sometimes. Okay, so I'm going to pop negative up here. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to call it core adjectives. Here we go. We will also, obviously, look at different like sentence starters and whatnot. I'm just sort of trying to build up your vocabulary to begin with. Okay. So we can use the word, it's not really a negative, but I don't know, depending on your perspective. Timido or timida. So, timido or timida. Timid or shy. Okay, one that is very popular now as well. Again, another piece of vocab that you can use in things like social media. Inseguro. Inseguro. Inseguro or insegura. Insecure. Okay. Insecure about oneself. Serio. Serio or seria. Serious. And impaciente. Impaciente. That's sort of a cognate, impatient. Okay. Impaciente. Perezoso is a good one to use as well. Perezoso. Or lazy. Lazy. Quite a negative one there. Alright. Well, it's all good knowing this vocab. Like I said, I'd also like to give you some useful verbs and phrases. Okay, so what I'm going to do is have a look at just a couple per sort of topic. And I'm going to write sort of a sentence that you can use for each one. So, very basic, okay. I'm going to pop a little note here. I'm going to just say key phrases. Again, it's an awful line, but it'll do. Soy. So I am. We will look in another video deeply about the differences between soy and estoy, or ser and estar. We'll just stick to soy for this one. A lovely one that you can use, and one that I didn't think of until I'd read a textbook. You would say me considero. Me considero. I consider myself. It's a nice one to use. You could say me considero simpático. I consider myself friendly, or simpática, depending if you're a female. This is a big one, and if you are aiming for the higher marks, definitely learn this one. Diría que. Okay. Diría que soy. I would say that I am. Okay, and the reason it's such a good one to remember if you want to get those high marks is because you've got that future there. That diría. It's the conditional. I'm not sure if it's the conditional, but it is definitely a future phrase, a different tense, basically. So that's one that examiners love. One that is also lovely to know as well if you want to sound a little bit more fluent or affluent in the language. One that I sort of thought of this morning. Tengo tendencia. I hope I'm spelling that right. Tengo tendencia a ser. Okay. Now, I'm hoping you'll be able to figure out what that is on your own. It's a nice little cognitive. Is that a word? Yeah, cognitive sentence. So I have the tendency to be, or I tend to be, which makes more sense in English. I tend to be. In Spanish, the literal translation is I have the tendency of being, or to be. So that's a lovely little, those lovely little phrases to be able to use. I also want to talk about intensifiers. Okay, intensifiers. intensifiers. Okay, just good to have in any situation. All right, so we obviously know the basic muy is very, un poco is a little, bastante is quite. Yeah, those three intensifiers are always going to be sort of your go-to, the ones that you want to look for the most. Okay, so let's sort of wrap everything up then, and let's sort of see if we can form a sentence using our verbs and our positive adjectives. So I'm gonna go in with the yellow, blue, or maybe not orange. Let's go orange. So I'm gonna start off with this one. This one's my favorite. So I could say diría que soy una persona. Now, you'll notice I'm using una and persona. Even though I'm not a female, I'm not using a feminine word going forwards. The word persona is feminine, so I have to use the noun that goes with it, which has also got to be feminine. Diría que soy una persona bastante... let's mix it. So, bastante tímido, which is not true. Bastante tímido. Pero, I'm going to put pero, but. Soy un poco, I don't know, divertido. También. Okay, so I would say that I'm quite a timid person, but I am also fun. Okay, so you can see how we can mix the vocab to create different sentences. Okay, right, let's scroll down to our next sort of a subtopic. We're now going to be looking at family and relationships. Okay, so I'm going to make a quick note so we know what we're doing. So number 2, family and relationships. Okay, family and relationships. And what we want to do is we want to paint an ideal, like a bit of a picture, really. And in fact, let's do that. So we've got our dad here. I'm going to give him some crazy hair. Oh, never mind. Dad here. Eyes. Very badly drawn. You'll have to excuse my awful drawing. I'm going to give a very traditional and stereotypical family photo. Oh my goodness, it thinks that I'm trying to rub it out. Make sure I give him arms and give her eyes and a smile. Here we go. There we go. I've got a very sort of stereotypical traditional family there. Just a little illustration so we can sort of get the vocab that we need to. So what we want to say is that this little man, this little boy here, let's say I was talking in his perspective. Okay, so for this, I'm going to say me. That's me. For this little boy, this man here would be padre. Padre, so dad, really. Or father. I'm going to stick to the more informal version. This lady would be his madre. His mum. His mama. Okay, and this girl here would be his hermana. Hermana, sister. Okay? So that's me talking in my perspective. Now, as time has gone on, the specification has sort of widened out, and when we're talking about things like extended family, that's when more vocab comes in. So extended family. Okay, because the image of a traditional family has changed quite a lot. So we've got abuelo or abuela, nan, granddad. Obviously, abuelo is granddad, abuela is grandma. I just say nad, nan. So that's, you know, we've got grandparents looking after children more nowadays. Step parents, so padrastro, yeah, padrastro, stepdad. Okay, notice the stem is still there, pad. Madrastra, okay, stepmom, stepmom, hermanastro, or hermanastra, stepbrother or stepsister. Okay, when we're talking about, again, the extended family, separated families. Sometimes people also like to make mention of the wife of my dad. So you could say la esposa de mi padre. My dad's wife is one that they've also checked in reading exams before. My dad's wife. Okay, and obviously one more thing as well I forgot to mention. Things like tío, which is uncle, tía, auntie, and primos, cousins. Cousins. Again, that whole O and A thing applies. So singular, primo, male cousin, prima, female cousin. What's another good one to know? Fun word that sometimes throws people off in the exams. The word gemelos. Gemelos is actually the word for twins. Twins. Okay, just a little one to know, because sometimes they do check it in and students do get confused. So now that we've got our basic vocabulary, what we want to do is have a look at some sort of connectives or useful words that you want to know. So the first thing to mention, okay, is that you're going to see a different types of words. So you could see the word familia, which is obviously family. You are also going to see familiar. Familiar is a very popular one again, and that can mean family, but it can also mean relatives. Okay, so that's one to watch out for. Family or relatives. What I always like to tell people as well is that there are some sort of like, oh dear, there are some wow phrases that you can use that will really sort of show off to the examiner. One that is really important, they're all going to be verbs, so I'm just going to draw a line here and I'm just going to pop verbs. Llevarse bien or mal, con. So that's to get on well / badly with. That's one that they love checking in the reading exams as well. You can use that to your advantage. You'll notice that it's not the traditional infinitive form. It's actually a reflexive. So the verb llevarse is reflexive. We will do another separate video on what reflexive verbs are and how to do them, but for now that's what we'll stick to. You can also use, I'll bullet point it, cuidar, to look after. Respetar, sort of a cognate, to respect. Confiar is a good one. Confiar, and that's usually paired with en, to trust in, or to trust someone. To trust. And if you want a bit more of a negative one, you can use a discutir. Discutir, which is to argue. To argue. Okay. Another good verb to know is the verb apoyar, which is to, I can never remember this one, to support. To support. That's a lovely one to use. One thing I'll also add as well, I just glanced over to my notes. If you want to use a bit of a nicer sentence, you could say ambiente familiar. Family environment, because it's contribute to the family environment. That's a nice one to use. Okay, so that is the basic vocab of sort of family. What we will have a look at now as well is the same thing as we did last time. We'll have a look at maybe one or two, because there's not as much vocab in this one, one or two model sentences that we can use. So I'll pop one down here and I'll make it in orange again. I'm going to go to my verbs. And if you are talking about yourself, so use that first one, which is the impressive one that I was telling you about. You always say, me llevo bien con. I'm going to draw a line here as well, actually, so we don't get confused. Me llevo bien con, and I'm going to put mis padres. Mis padres, my parents, so that's the plural for parents. Con mis padres. I always like to use the confío or confiar en. Don't forget you'd have to conjugate this for yourself. And it is, unfortunately, reflexive. So, not reflexive, sorry, irregular. So the I actually gains an accent when it becomes confío. Confío y confío. En ello, confío mucho en ellos. And I confide in them, or I trust them a lot. And ellos is obviously the, what's the word called? The subject pronoun for they or them. Another example we could look at, or we could write about, we could say, aunque, this one's lovely, aunque a veces, no, that's another intensifier to note, sorry. A veces is sometimes. A veces is sometimes. Aunque a veces discutimos. Oops, discutimos. Hay mucho respeto en mi. That's not an accent, by the way. En mi familia. En mi familia. Okay, so although sometimes we argue, there is much respect in my family. Okay, so you'll notice how I've used the word I for there is. Or you wouldn't use the word like tener, to have respect in this case. You could use it if you were talking about, for example, your dad directly. Tengo mucho respeto para mi padre. Or por mi padre. So the word I just sort of makes it a little bit easier for you to understand. Alright? So that's sort of the board, or the canvas, I'll call it, for the topic of family and relationships. Okay, let's move on to the final part of this revision video. Looking at friends and sort of social relationships. Friends and social relationships. And we're also going to have a look at a couple of grammar points as well. So let's again start with our vocabulary. Our vocab. Okay, so we can say amigo or amiga. And then nice with cercano. Cercano. Or close. Close friend. Again, you change it depending on masculine or feminine endings. Mejor amigo / amiga. Best friend. Best friend. I don't know why my F was a B. Best friend. We could say grupo. Grupo de amigos. The group of friends. Group of friends. And you can also use the adjective like confianza. Confianza, which is trust. Another word for trust. This you would say things like there is much trust among our group of friends. Our lealtad. Lealtad. Loyalty. Loyalty. Okay. What about when we're describing our friends? So, description. Don't forget, you've still got the descriptions from when we were talking about ourselves that you can use in this case. You can say comprensivo. Comprensivo or comprensiva. Understanding. Understanding. Okay. Fiel. Loyal. Okay, that's a sort of variety of lealtad, which is loyalty. Anything ending in tad, LTY in English. You could say divertido, which again we had up there, up in our own descriptions. Divertido, divertida. Fun or funny. Solidario is a good one. Solidario, solidaria. Supportive. Supportive. Nice little vocab there. Okay. Now, let's talk about opinion phrases. Opinion phrases are important because they are like sort of your bread and butter, the basics of what you need. Okay. And I'm going to pop them below here. We still got a couple of other things to discuss in terms of relationships. And I'm going to pop them down here. So we got creo que, which is I believe. Or I believe that. Pienso que. Pienso comes from the verb pensar, to think. So I think that. You can also say, from what we heard earlier, diría que. I would say that. I would say that. En mi opinión is a nice simple one that you can remember. En mi opinión. En mi opinión with an accent on the O. In my opinion. And one that examiners love to check in and love when you check it in as well. Desde mi punto de vista. Desde mi punto de vista. From my view, or in my view. In my view. Alright? Lovely one to sort of remember. Now, like I said, there are still a couple of other things that we want to discuss about relationships, mainly with like romantic relationships. So I'm gonna do another really bad drawing here. They think I'm trying to get rid of him. I'm not. That's Ted. This is our friend, or this is his friend. I'm gonna call her Linda. There we go. Now, Ted and Linda can be described as una pareja, a couple. So, Ted will be el novio. She would be la novia. Okay? Boyfriend and girlfriend. If you want to go further and look at, again, reflexive verbs, which we won't do a lot of today, but you could go as far as to say You could use the verb enamorarse. They are in love, or to be in love. In the future, if they have got married, I know we're thinking forward now, but the verb for to get married is casarse, to be married or to get married. And then for marriage, I only bring this up because it can be chucked in sometimes. The word for wedding is la boda or una boda. Una boda. Okay, that's just one little bit of extra sort of vocab that I wanted to chuck in. Yeah, that's just one little thing to point out. And like I said, we also are going to have a look at one of my favourite things, which is grammar. Grammar, okay, because there are some sort of grammatical points that I would like to get into this video. When we're looking at comparisons, okay, so comparisons, we can see más que, which is more than, or menos que, less than. Pretty self-explanatory. And when we are using things like time expressions, we can say things like antes, which is before, ahora, which is like now or nowadays. We've also got actualmente, which for many dialects actually means currently. Okay. And one that, again, examiners love, and I think it's important to know, it's a bit of a complaint actually. En el futuro, in the future. In the future. All right. Some nice little pieces of vocab to have there. Now, if you are aiming for the top grades, I want to sort of drill these couple of next sentences into you. So this is the conditional in the future tense. Okay, me gustaría. I know it's a basic one, but you need to know it. Fliparía, molaría. I would like. Okay, I would like. Sería. Got to be careful how you use this one. Sería would be. Mi familia ideal sería, my ideal family would be. That's nice. You can also use sort of double up on them. So for example, you could say en el futuro me gustaría, in the future I would like to. So they sort of slot together. Quería, you'll notice how for the future ones, they actually end in ia. I would want. I would want. Or you can also say espero que. Or espero que is I hope that. I hope that. Okay, so some future phrases to keep in mind. If we're talking about some grammar, I always teach this last because we look at the verb tener when we're doing it. So the last sort of, I'm going to call it 4A. The last sort of subtopic is looking at hair colour and eye colour. Just before I forget about it, okay? We always use the verb tener, which is to have. Okay, so tengo and tienes and tiene or tienen are all going to be your best friends. So tengo is I have in the I form, tienes, you have in the you form, tiene, it, slash he, slash she has, tienen, they have. Okay, so that's your grammar point there. Now remember, hair is singular. So if I'm talking about myself, tengo el pelo. Pelo is the verb for hair. Not the verb, the word for hair, sorry. So tengo el pelo, and we can use the following. So we can say pelo rubio, which is blonde. El pelo castaño, which is like a sort of a chestnut colour, or brown. El pelo negro, black. Alright. Pelirrojo, ginger, or red hair. Red hair. Or gris, if you're using to describe your nanny or granddad, grey. Alright, again, pelo is singular, so you would only ever use the singular form for these words, and you would pair it with one of the verbs for tener. Alright, what about eye colour? Okay, we'd say tengo los ojos, and obviously eyes are plural, so we've got that los and the ojos, so our colours also need to be plural. Azules, blue. Verdes, green. Marrones, brown. Negros, which is black. Okay, again, you'll notice how each of them ends in the S or os, because the eyes are plural. One more thing as well, actually, go back to the hair. We can talk about the style and the length. So el pelo corto, short. Largo, long. We can say rizado, which is like a sort of a curly. Liso, straight. Ondulado, wavy. Alright, so that's sort of the basics of the vocab. Obviously, I would encourage you to practice different questions and whatnot. But that is sort of the basics of what you need to know. I will, like I said, make this available in a PDF, so you can download it if you wanted to keep it for revision. If you have got any questions, obviously leave them in the comment section below. But I hope you found this video helpful. And yeah, happy revising. We'll see you in the next one.